Good morning. This is the kickoff ceremony for the Upper Coonamessett River restoration. And I was thinking, a few months ago when I was thinking we would have this, I know you're all thrilled about this, but nobody's more thrilled than I that we're starting construction. For those of you who don't know me, and I don't think there are very many in this room who don't, I'm Betsy Gladfelter. I'm project coordinator for the town of Falmouth. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of bringing the Coonamessett to a fully functioning ecosystem, as it was for tens of thousands of years under the stewardship of the people of the First Light, our neighbors and partners, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. Welcome to our elected officials, Congressman Keating, Senator Fernandez, Representative Vieira, Representative Moakley, and Select Board Member Doug Brown. Also present are a few of our town employees, including our town manager, Mike Renshaw, who isn't here for the speaker because he declined my invitation. We also have our funding partners, including NOAA, whose money passes through Mass Audubon for a big bundle project, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Division of Ecological Restoration, and the Community Preservation Fund. I might point out that all of our federal funds are from the bipartisan infrastructure law passed during the Biden administration. Also present today are our non-governmental organizations who play a large role in this project. The Coonamessett River Trust, who, among other things, continue to do monitoring and education programs on the river. The 300 Committee Land Trust, who continue to add land, or I hope they're going to continue to add land along the trail, but they also help develop the Coonamessett Greenway Heritage Trail, and I'm working with one of their interns from TerraCorps, I see her sitting quietly in the back, with the Wampanoag tribe on 4 additional interpretive signs that will focus on Wampanoag history and culture. And finally, our contractors, Interfluve, who designs the bog restoration, Stimson, who designs the bridges and trail, Horsley Wetton, who very patiently brought us through the permitting process, which, as I told Dylan when I first congratulated him after the election, is a challenging process for all of us in restoration, and actually the contractors I know say it's a challenging process for them too. So it's maybe something the state could work on. And finally, our contractor whose employees are freezing out on the site right now, Sumco Eco. You have Beth Lambert from Division of Ecological Restoration to thank for saying to me, you really don't want to freeze everybody, as well as Peter McConerty, to suggest that we have this inside. The project that has already begun in the Upper Coonamessett will continue to add to the benefits already realized in the lower river restoration that was completed in 2020. A better habitat for commercially important fish species and other wildlife. And just as an example, built into the river design, it were streams that connected cold water springs to the main stem of the river. And this has been Steve Hurley, who just retired recently, our state freshwater biologist. His desire was to restore native brook trout to our southeastern Massachusetts streams. And in the Coonamessett, it has been outstanding. And I wrote to him the day he retired And he said, I want you to know, to celebrate, I took my wife to the Overlook. This work will also make a more resilient coastal valley, and the removal of 4 berms will restore the continuity of the floodplain. And finally, the healthy, restored ecosystem will provide even more opportunities for recreational and educational benefits. And I just want to mention a couple because I think this is really the people part of the project. Coonamessett River Trust has a program with the Falmouth Public Schools to develop 2 science units. One brings all the 4th graders to the river in the spring, where they learn the names of trees and birds and flowers and fish. And secondly, they come again in the fall to study aspects of wetland science. The 300 committee, among many of the educational walks, if any of you are interested in this, often have a full moon walk, obviously on the full moon of each month. I don't know if they had one this month. Soon we'll all restore a more fully restored river system, but we'll also have the satisfaction of leaving such an important legacy for future generations. So we have a few guest speakers, and the first will be Beth Lambert, who's director of the Massachusetts Division of Ecological Restoration. She's going to give a not very short, but short presentation on how important Division of Ecological Restoration has been in tying local initiatives to federal funding. And it's these projects could not have happened without Beth. And then afterwards, the next speaker, just to get you prepared, will be Congressman Bill Keating. So, Beth.
Thank you, Betsy. Good morning, everyone. I am so thrilled to be here for the groundbreaking of Phase 3 of the Coonamessett River Restoration Project. As Betsy said, I'm Beth Lambert. I'm the director of the Massachusetts Division of Ecological Restoration. We're a small state agency in the Department of Fish and Game with a mission to restore and protect rivers, wetlands, and watersheds for the benefit of people and the environment. I'm here with a couple staff from DER today. We've got Eric Ford in the background. Eric, can you just wave your hand a second? Thank you. Eric is DER's point person and project manager for this restoration project, working with Betsy and the town and the trust and all the other partners. We have Krista Haas, our communications specialist, and then we also have Bill Giuliano, who manages our Cranberry Bog restoration program. And our division works with federal, state, local, and nonprofit organizations all across the state to plan and carry out restoration projects like this. So I'm particularly thrilled to be here, though, because this project, out of all of the projects that we work on, is really near and dear to my heart. And so what I'm going to do now is tell you a little bit about my history with the project, but more importantly, how this project really serves as a model for other restoration efforts around the state and has really taught us as a division how to approach restoration. So in many ways, my small agency and the Coonamessett River Restoration Project grew up together. My division was formed in 2009, and it's around that very same time that the Coonamessett Trust, the town of Falmouth, and a small group of people catalyzed this current initiative to restore the Coonamessett River. As DER, my agency has grown and matured, so has this project. And this project is now a model for other projects around the state. DER has learned so much from this restoration effort, and we now apply these efforts statewide. And so there's 4 lessons that we learned from this project that I want to share with you today. But first, I want to give a little background. The town of Falmouth and the Trust applied to DER for priority project status for the Lower Coonamessett River in 2009, the year that DER was formed. Priority project status makes restoration projects around the state eligible for project management assistance from our division, grant writing assistance, particularly to secure federal funds to move projects forward, help with the permitting process, all kinds of sort of technical and programmatic and funding support. In 2011, with help from Interfluve, the town proposed what was then called a pilot restoration initiative in the lower bog. Through this pilot, the town would remove what was known as Lower Dam and replace it with an accessible boardwalk. The town also planned to restore 17 acres of wetland, restore river habitat, and then eventually provide passage for river herring all the way up through the rest of the system. This is when I became involved, joining a small team of people working together to flesh out the plan for the pilot restoration of Lower Bog. Under the leadership of the Conservation Commission, with Betsy Gladfelter as project manager for the town, the Coonamessett River Trust, the Department of Public Works, Interfluve, and a few others, we began planning engineering for the project. As you can imagine, I was soon immersed into a whirlwind of kitchen table meetings, late night grant proposal writing, long phone calls with Betsy and the technical team, working through project budgets and Gantt charts. There were rainy site walks with the Conservation Commission, site walks with the Select Board, site walks with regulators. There was field work. I got horrible poison ivy. The project team spent many hours in impassioned discussions of pools, riffles, bank treatments, and boardwalks. But, and this is the most important thing, for every meeting or site walk that I participated in on behalf of the Division of Ecological Restoration, my colleagues here in Falmouth, many of you here in this room today, you led or participated in dozens of other meetings, dozens of site walks, presentations, one-on-one meetings, funding pitches. You showed up to town meeting and you voted. You volunteered hundreds of hours of fish monitoring and other critical data collection. In short, people and organizations from Falmouth and beyond came together to restore this special river and its wetlands. Time went quickly. In 2018, some 50 people joined ribbon cutting at the end of phase 1 pilot restoration. Somehow the pilot restoration had expanded beyond that original footprint, and so 75 or more people joined us for groundbreaking at phase 2. I think many of you were probably here. Can you raise your hand if you were at the groundbreaking for phase 2 of the project? How about the ribbon cutting for phase 1? Yep. So we're all old hats at these events. Meanwhile, by the end of phase 2, the town and partners had opened up 2.2 miles of the river, restored over 4,600 feet of the river channel, rebuilt 56 acres of accessible trails, and built a wonderful ADA accessible overlook. And the core partners had expanded to over 30 organizations and agencies, and you can see that long list of partners on the poster here. Every partner has contributed something critical to the success of this project. Now here we are, poised for the start of phase 3. Phase 3 involves around 19 acres of wetland restoration, the removal of around 7 fish passage barriers, and restoration of the river channel itself. It will include additional accessible walking trails. Our division is supporting this phase of the project with $180,000. Over the last 15 years, what started as a pilot initiative has grown into a headwaters to mouth restoration of the Coonamessett River. This is a model for projects here on the Cape and across the state. There's 4 lessons we learned from this project that I want to share with you. First, rivers and wetlands can recover quickly from past damage when key stressors are reduced or removed. For those who witnessed the results, which is many of us in the room today, seeing a river or wetland recover from past damage brings hope, a sense of accomplishment, and a visceral reminder that taking action can lead to positive change. Second, each successful restoration project makes the next one easier. This was one of the first cranberry bog restoration projects to take place in Massachusetts. think maybe it was the third. Now there's more than 15, somewhere between 15 and 20 cranberry bog restoration projects underway throughout Southeast Mass. Third, river and wetland restoration projects bring additional powerful benefits above and beyond the ecosystem restoration benefits, such as improved public safety, job creation, outdoor recreation, economic benefits, and many others. For example, this project brought improved road safety with the new bridge at John Parker Road, an incredible trail network, the boardwalks, the ADA-compliant overlooks and paths, a lab for hands-on environmental education for kids of all ages. These benefits attract diverse coalitions of restoration advocates and partners. With one investment for the restoration of the river and the wetlands, the town of Falmouth and surrounding communities and the state of Massachusetts gain so many other benefits. It's one investment, but it's as if 10 different projects have been accomplished through that one investment. Lastly, the scale and scope of restoration needs across the state can only be met by building capacity and partnerships from the community level through regional, state, and the federal government. In many ways, organizations like mine and other regional organizations, we act as the funnel. We try to grab the resources that are out there in the federal government and elsewhere that are kind of floating around. We grab them, we secure them, and we help bring them to local projects like this, because these local projects benefit not only the community here, but the rest of the state. These strong partnerships are really the only way that we can accomplish river and wetland restoration together. So today we celebrate the start of phase 3 of the restoration work. We all know, however, that the restoration really begins when the heavy equipment leaves the site and Mother Nature takes over. We're in for a treat next spring, first when the river herring return, and second when the wetland plants begin growing and thriving. Congratulations to the residents, to our elected officials, to the nonprofits in the community and the town of Falmouth. Thank you so much for including the Division of Ecological Restoration in this incredible restoration journey. I can't wait to come back out here with you all next spring. Thank you.
So our next speaker, along with some of our other elected officials, attended the groundbreaking for the first phase. I remember Congressman Keating had some worries about a sunken boat. Yes. Do you remember that? Yeah, exactly. So he and his office have been very helpful throughout this process, and we'd like to have him speak a few words.
What a memory we have.
Well, I remember it was a panic. There's always a panic.
Well, Betsy, what an amazing memory, but sadly the boat sunk. It was sinking while I was here, and there was nothing much we could do about it because people couldn't get in to deal with it. It was a storm, and the results of that storm were pretty dramatic. But it's raised itself again, and so it's still operating. What Betsy talked about, and Beth, you know, there's not much left to say after Beth said that, and I know that the senator and the ref, they're sitting there saying, boy, there's not much left. But I think what she went into should be viewed also in terms of just the partnerships, local, state, federal, that are there, but the amazing efficiencies that were brought into that. Think about if that wasn't there, if that working together didn't exist, how much this would have cost. Imagine if this was subcontracted out, if there was one contractor and then they had to go get all these other subcontractors and go through all that, and the bidding would happen. The cost of this would be enormously more expensive than it actually was. And, you know, just the good work here in Falmouth, the local resources, talents, the knowledge, and the free work, because nothing's free because people volunteer it, but so much of that work was put into it at that level, then coordinated with a multi-governmental approach to it, then built on to capture some federal money. And I'm glad you mentioned too, when we talk about federal infrastructure, we're just not talking about bridges and roads. So much of that was to environmental issues and to other infrastructures, particularly a district like mine that has so many coastal areas and the inlands that come from it. That's extremely important money. And the fact that was leveraged so efficiently with all the other elements of government and the local people all participating is a tremendous success story. I like to look at these projects. I love these projects. That's why I was here before. Think of it for a second as having an old building and the roof is leaking. And that leakage went down and compromised the walls and the structures of the building, and that collapsed over a beautiful yard that was there. And it not only compromised that yard, but it compromised your neighbor's yard where they had done some work and built that up and had held it open to the whole community so that community could use it. But indeed, it wasn't being used properly because of that leak in the beginning that was there. Now imagine somehow if you could take that money and just fix the roof, the small part of that roof, and somehow magically the walls came together again and the structure was built together and the yard was clean and your neighbor's yard was benefited by that. Well, this is the magic that nature has. That's why nature heals itself. And our Native Americans and the Wampanoag tribe here in general, they know this. This is part of their spiritual and cultural upbringing. They taught us this, but we're about to experience that, how nature can heal itself. And indeed, look what will happen for that tiny investment. And think about it. If you were told too, oh, you'll only have to repair that roof once, and then you'll never have to worry about it again. And this is what's happening here. Through this restoration, we are dealing with taking the 7 passageways that are passage blocks that are there blocking the fish, and you will see it happen. I have seen it happen. I've never seen anything change as dramatically as the herring coming in right afterwards. It's just not a few. They are going to be coming this spring, and you won't believe it. That'll bring the American eel and create a habitat for the trout, which would create greater recreation areas in our areas. It'll create an asset in our area that builds upon what is already built, the restoration of the cranberry bogs nearby. All those things, this coordinates and makes that more significant and more beneficial to the community. So all this magic is put into place just by this initial investment. And it's something to see. And to think of this community and this region with everything else that surrounds it, having a resource like this, where commercial people can benefit from it, where people can recreate there, where young people can learn, as so many of the Wampanoag people learn generation to generation how nature is there and how it heals itself, and how the people can enjoy this, and including people that have physical challenges. This is all in place right in this beautiful area here. And as we do it, we're helping all the other surrounding areas at the same time, including a neighbor who has water supply that'll be benefited by this project too. So all of these things come into place, and it's a lot of hard work to do that. The magic of nature is part of it, but that's not going to be tapped unless all this other work has been done, dating back from 2009. It's amazing, and it's not easy. But when you see the results, it is magic. So congratulations to everyone that's been part of this. This is really exciting.
Our next 2 speakers have also been here many times before. The first is our new senator, Dylan Fernandez. And Dylan and Dave Vera, who followed Dylan, both grew up on the river. And Beth tells me that that makes a big difference in these projects if you have state representatives who have personal ties to it. So Dylan?
Great, well, thanks. Thank you, Betsy. My dad's home is actually in the photograph. My childhood home is in the photograph over there. So I did grow up on the river. And when the project started going, my father is like, "What are they doing? It is so ugly." And it's true, it was kind of ugly, for a year and a half. But then as it progressed past those early phases, a couple of years later, he's like, "Wow, it is really nice. It's really quite beautiful what they've been able to accomplish." And now he walks around the bogs almost every day. So on behalf of my dad, thank you. And it's, as the congressman mentioned, it's really remarkable how many different people have pitched in from state, federal, the town, the tribe, nonprofit, profit organizations. This has really been a community-wide effort. But at the end of the day, you really need someone pushing, nagging, poking to get it done, and no one does that better than Betsy Gladfelter. But Betsy is truly I joke, Betsy's truly a happy warrior when it comes to these things, and we're all the benefit of that, so thank you, Betsy. The one thing I'll say that because so much has been mentioned, when we think about our changing planet and the amount of coast that Falmouth has, we need to be doing projects that, yes, are restorative to habitat and species, but also taking in mind our own coastal resilience and what sea level rise and increased storms are going to mean for our infrastructure, our homes, our environment. And projects like this are a shining example of what we can do when we act together, and what state and feds and local can support to make sure our coastlines are resilient, because it's only going to get worse: flooding, sea level rise, storms, and our first line of defense should and needs to be nature-based solutions, so that when the water comes up, they go through rivers and bogs and not into your basement, not into our businesses. And this is really an example for the state, and what we can use for other municipalities going forward, so that they're leaning first into nature-based solutions and not hardening and other things that actually can disrupt our natural environment. So thank you, Betsy. Thank you, everyone involved. And this is a shining example of what teamwork, bipartisan, state, local, federal can do to get things done. So thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. Dave also is a son of the river. Dave Vieira.
We're just off the
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Betsy. Falmouth is very lucky to have 3 of these type projects. Years ago, starting in the 80s with Trouts Unlimited over on the Quashnet River, and then this large, expansive project after much political debate about the future of this river at town meeting, and now the restored Child River. All of those rivers mean a lot to me. I've told the story before of being just off the top of that map every spring at my grandfather's house when the gulls would be chirping up there, and we'd say, "Oh, it's the run." And we'd hop in the yellow Datsun pickup truck. And back in those days, we could go down to the dam and catch some herring and bring them home and fry the roe up with some eggs for breakfast and filet. And then, over the years, less and less herring came to that dam. And then we had to put the ban. And now, we've removed the dam. They're coming back. We see them when we go out with the State Department of Fish and Game and do the electroshocking of the river. We count the species coming back, whether they're the heron, they're the eel, or the sea-run brook trout. My other grandfather, who didn't live on this river but lived over in Waquoit Bay watershed, used to take me out eeling with a 16-foot-long eel spear. Remember back when it used to get cold And it used to freeze, salt water used to freeze on the Cape. It might by the end of this week. I'm hoping so, because I still get that 16-foot spear. And we would cut the hole in the ice, and we would eel. And within an hour or so, we'd fill up a 5-gallon bucket. And being Portuguese, we'd soak them in vinha de alho. That's what the garlic wine that you use to make cacerla. And then we'd fry them up with breadcrumbs and eat them with baked beans. And so we have 3 river projects, all successful, but all that are only possible by the commitment of volunteers and staff. And today I want to call out 3 amazing women that are part of this project, part of the legacy, not only here in Falmouth, but a legacy that goes back over 100 years. Betsy, amazing. Not just amazing that you did the first project and did it as well as you did and brought all of these organizations together, but amazing that you stuck with it for phase 2, and now you stuck with it for phase 3. And you know, the Enterprise, if you read the article about this a week ago, said how much experience Betsy has, and I had no idea. They actually put Betsy's age in there. And to have the amount of energy and commitment to keep through all 3 of these projects, it's no wonder the Overlook has a name that goes with the legacy. In 2010, I got elected to the state legislature, and it was just after the Department of Ecological Resources was created. Beth, the work that you've done to build that office and to take and to leverage the funds, when we sit, I'm on the bonding committee, it's boring, it's bean counting, but when we sit there and we crunch numbers to collateralize projects, and folks like Beth Lambert go out there and make those dollars work and work in synergy with the community, that's an amazing thing. Lastly, for those of you that were at the ribbon cutting, or I guess whatever it was, whatever we called it over there at the Childs River, I talked about the land ethic with Aldo Leopold. And I told Betsy I'm going to change it up a little bit today. So being here in Falmouth, Woods Hole, there's another amazing woman who has a statue down in Woods Hole, Rachel Carlson. Everybody knows Rachel Carlson from Silent Spring. Not many people have ever read Under the Sea Wind. But she had a trilogy of the ocean and how it interacts with the land and the sea. And Betsy, being a coral reef biologist by trade, can appreciate this interconnectedness. And so to end, I'd like to just read a small passage from Under the Sea Wind, Rachel Carlson. It was written, moreover, out of the deep conviction that the life of the sea is worth knowing. To stand at the edge of the sea and to sense the ebb and flow of the tides, to feel the breath of a mist moving over a great salt marsh, to watch the flight of shorebirds that have swept up and down the surf lines of continents for untold thousands of years, and to see the running of the old eels and the young shad to the sea, is to have knowledge of things that are as nearly eternal as the earthly life can be. These things were before ever man stood on the shore of the ocean and looked out upon it with wonder, and they continue year in and year out through the centuries and the ages, while man's kingdoms rise and fall. To the 2 amazing women sitting in front of me, and to all the organizations and volunteers that have been involved, thanks for letting this river rise again with the ages.
Thanks, Dave. And now, Thomas, you're like, what am I going to say? But our newest representative, Thomas Moakley.
Thank you very much. As a trial attorney, I learned the value of brevity. So, first, I just want to say, as another local kid, it makes me so proud that something is coming together that's going to have such an important impact. And to see all the logos on this panel here of so many organizations that have meant so much to me over the course of my life, it reminds me actually, Dave, of another Rachel Carson quote, which is nothing exists in nature alone. You know, we do our best in collaborative work. And so as a brand new state rep, and Beth made a good example of this, that this project is a model for other things. So coming in brand new, this being my first event of this sort, learning more about a project like this that so many of you have put so much work into. In civics, you sort of learn government is like a top-down system, but this is a great example of how it's a local-led project with support from the state and the federal level. So I think maybe we should just put you in charge of everything we have going forward, Betsy. So, thank you all so much.
Thanks, Thomas. Now, someone who's spent a lot of time preparing his words to you. No, he told me, I'm not going to give a long speech, but our select person, Doug Brown. And he doesn't have to say too much, I promised him.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Betsy. I also grew up on the Great Bay. I was on Shorewood Drive, and every summer we'd get the rowboat and we'd go make our way up to Coonamessett Pond. And it was always a challenge. We had to get at least 4 kids that were willing to do it because the old wooden rowboat was pretty heavy. And we had to drag it up over those dams. And as we made our way through the river, the first year we got through okay. The second year, the neighbors were like taking an interest and didn't really want us cutting through there. The third year when we went back again, one of the neighbors had cut down some trees to try to block us from going through. We still got through, but it just shows how challenging this must have been to get all the permissions. I don't know who did all the work, Betsy, was it you probably? But all, okay, well somebody had to do the work of getting permission from all these people along that river, so I'm sure that was a big challenge. Years ago, as was briefly related to, we had what we called the cranberry wars, because a lot of people didn't want to see the cranberries go away. A lot of people wanted to see collaboration. We agreed to some kind of a compromise agreement to build a berm and control the river. And it didn't really work out. The farmer wasn't really up to the challenge of doing all that work, and the farming just kind of fell away. And you know, it's a blessing in disguise, because look what we have now. It's so much more beautiful than what that little compromise idea would have been marginal, and we could have had some cranberries, but what we have now is really a gem. So I'm really grateful the way it's turned out. And I think most of the people that were in that other camp have come along to realize we wouldn't have had this beautiful treasure that we have had we gone the other way. So I'm grateful, and I'm thankful, and I'm happy to be here as a select board member. This is like one of the best parts of the job, is getting to go to these things and see what work is being done in our town. We're really lucky here in Falmouth to have so many advocates bringing so much beautiful stuff to our town, because we couldn't do it alone, and thank you for helping us with this. Appreciate it.
There you are. I didn't know you had made it. So our next group of speakers are funders for this project. And first on the docket is Jim Turek. Jim also has been with us this entire journey. Jim is with the Restoration Center at NOAA in Rhode Island.
Well, good morning, everybody, or close to noontime, but it's a cold day out there today, but it's great to see all the warm smiles and a lot of nice warm thoughts about the Coonamessett. And so I want to start off by saying, Betsy, I think we started earlier than 2009. For some reason, I think we started, I'm vaguely remembering like 2006, 2007. I'll have to look in my records, but I bring this up because it's been a long ride. I will say that. You know, I remember a small group of us, and Beth was there, and I think Amy Singler was there from American Rivers, and Betsy and myself, and I think Nick Nelson, and so we had a whole small group of us. And I remember when I first got the call from one of my colleagues saying, "Hey Jim, can you cover this project down in Falmouth and stuff?" I said, "Well, what's the project they want to do?" And they said they talked about the Coonamessett bogs down there. I said, "Well, is it going to pass fish? Are we going to do fish restoration? And so that's when I got started in the project, and so that, again, that was in the that was around 2008, 2009ish, and so at that time, our agency, when we were providing these proactive restoration funds, it was mostly focused on fish passage, fish passage and other restoration types, but fish passage being a very high priority, and river herring, which are forage fish for many, game fishes everybody knows, as well as the American eel we've talked about. These are incredibly important fish to our agency, the National Marine Fisheries Service, and so, we got excited when there was a focus on dam removal, because we did our first dam removal in the country in 2003, just north of here in Plymouth, as people probably are aware of, and we started up our Open Rivers Initiative in 2004. So things were progressing quite nicely, and funds were slowly increasing. Not a lot, because we were dealing with dollar amounts that were good, but they were not great. And then as time went on, during the Obama administration, with the implementation of the economic stimulus, there was even more money infused in the projects, and so when we came around with getting the relatively small funding level, like the alternatives analysis for the project, it became a better thing in that we were ready. So when in 2016, and then by that time, NOAA was also greatly focused on increased coastal resilience as part of fish passage restoration and population restoration. So we started looking at what are going to be the benefits of projects like the Coonamessett that we're going to allow, marsh migration with sea level rise and all that came together. And so in 2016, through our Coastal and Marine grant award, restoration grant award, we funded the project at $1.2 million or thereabouts, and so that really kind of took us off. And so then we were all ready by 2017 with the implementation of the lower dam removal and the wetland restoration, and seeing how quickly, as Beth talked about, with the incredible recovery because of the seed bank, the natural wetland seed bank that exists in these systems. After you take the fill off, they came back within one growing season, and we've seen that in numerous places, as people have mentioned. And so it's just an incredible observation to see how ecology can recover that quickly, and also the river herring populations can bounce back as well. But it was greatly enhanced by the fact that then we moved into the middle bog dam removal and the restoration there, and then finally the John Parker Road culvert replacement. And once they all came together, and we were kind of wrapped that up in May of 2020, it was quite amazing to see the scale of the project that we accomplished, mostly because of Betsy driving us all to getting the right things done and getting the money. And then that took us to where we're at today with the groundbreaking with the last part. And the way we've got another I think it's about $1.7 million into the project this time around is that we work with Mass Audubon. And so with Mass Audubon, who has basically planning for marsh migration and other aspects of coastal resilience, we've tied that with this project, and it's great to have them here as partners as well. And it's just a great opportunity. That program also is funded to work with the Wampanoags and educational programs, and so that's just yet another facet of this project. And we didn't talk, I don't think anybody's talked about it, so I'll get a little tidbit in that. Betsy also put some incredible public educational signage, so when you're out there walking the trails to see all the great information on those plaques. I mean, it's an incredible amount of effort to get there to help people better understand, including our future generations, is what we're doing here. And so with that, I don't really have anything else. I just appreciate everybody showing up here today and inviting me, inviting NOAA, and we look forward to more work with you guys. Thanks.
Our next federal funder, who I can see is eager to have a few words, is Jamie Masterson, did you drive down today? I did. From New Hampshire from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And Jamie was, every federal agency does things differently. And I love working with you, Jim, and I've had we've had a lot of success from NOAA. But I have to say, you have been really also a lot of fun, even though you do things differently. I'm like, why are they doing it this way? I'm like, whatever, just show me what the hoops are. So, Jamie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Masterson. I work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service out of our Central New England Fish and Wildlife Conservation Office up in Nashua, New Hampshire. It was a 2-hour drive, but it was an easy one today. So I wish I could say that I had been in this project like everyone else from the beginning, but I have not, just for this last phase. This project was brought to us in the fall of 2022 when Betsy applied for the bipartisan infrastructure law funding through the Fish and Wildlife Service, which we just call BILL. I'd like to also just let everyone know how incredibly competitive the BILL funding was and how hard it really was to get projects funded. So, and you got funding from us and NOAA. So, I mean, that's amazing. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service received $200 million through the bipartisan infrastructure law to work on aquatic habitat restoration for over 5 years. And to date, we have put out $143 million nationwide to 122 projects in 41 states and 1 in Puerto Rico. So in my region, the Northeast region, which is Maine down to West Virginia, we have been selected for 23 of those projects, which is amazing. And the state of Massachusetts, always a winner, is leading the way with 5 of those projects. And we've brought in just over $7.1 million through the bipartisan infrastructure law into the state of Massachusetts. And I'm really thankful for the bipartisan infrastructure law. They kept talking about it for years. It was like nothing was happening. And then finally, like, it hit, and it was just a scramble from everybody. But it's really helped, like, so much, not only for my organization to get projects done, but for all the other organizations that got millions of dollars, including NOAA, and who I've been working with on a lot of these different projects together to, like, combine funding to get these projects over that last hump, to get them completed. That would have taken years to come up with that kind of funding. And I'd also like to thank Betsy and the town for working with me, not only for the work you put in for the application, but then, like she was alluding to, the work we put in getting the grant in. And our financial institute is not always easy to work with, which is funny because it's called ASAP, and it's absolutely nothing fast about it. It's really hard to get through it. And I'd also like to thank all of the partners. Again, it's always a collaborative thing to get these projects done so smoothly. And just congratulations on getting another habitat project to completion.
Now, as we've mentioned, the NOAA money comes through Mass Audubon. I think that NOAA has decided it's easier to have one entity to deal with, and they can deal with the other entities rather than to give out smaller grants. But nevertheless, we're working with, where are you? We're working with Mass Audubon, Sarah Grady.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Grady. I'm the senior coastal ecologist for Mass Audubon, and I'm really glad to be here in Falmouth because I went to grad school down the road in Woods Holes. This is a bit of a homecoming. I checked in at Coffee-O this morning, and it hasn't changed too much in 20 years. So I'm part of our relatively new ecological restoration program. We're coming up on our second birthday in about a month or so. And our goal is to do ecological restoration projects, not just on Mass Audubon properties, but to work with many of you off sanctuary, as we call it, to implement coastal restoration. When the last time I was out in the field with Betsy, she mentioned to me that Mass Audubon is often known for protecting places that are already pristine. And now we have the opportunity to look at places that are maybe a little bit less pristine, need healing, and to help them get to a better place. The work that is happening at the Upper Coonamessett River restoration is funded by NOAA, among other partners, through Mass Audubon. And the grant that we have from NOAA is called Making Space, or at least that's what we call it. And the point of that grant is to prioritize coastal cranberry bogs that can turn into beautiful restoration projects in the present, but also provide coastal resiliency for sea level rise in the future and help facilitate marsh migration. So we're prioritizing bogs along the coast, and it's very exciting because this is the first project under that grant that is going to construction. We're also partnering with organizations like the Cape Cod Cranberry Growers Association and the Native Land Conservancy to try to make the process of transitioning a bog to a restoration project easier and to help provide cultural respect easements to those restored bogs. And we're hoping that we'll be partnering with many of you in the room in the future on lots more projects, not just on cranberry bogs, but also salt marshes and dam removals. And we're just really grateful to be part of this project. And again, thank you to everybody and congratulations.
Well, it's getting on to noon, and I know everybody's eager to have a donut, which is an important part of this project. It gets everybody through a lot. The last speaker I've asked, where is he? Did he not? Trying to see where he is. He won't show up. There he is. He's in red. So Nick Nelson, I had asked Nick Nelson, because Nick was with us right from the beginning, since 2009. But since 2016, Sumco has also been with us. We haven't, believe it or not, this is the 6th gathering we've had like this. We've had ribbon cuttings, we've had, groundbreaking. But anyway, Nick is stuck up waiting for AAA. And so I've asked Travis from Sumco Eco, Travis Sumner from Sumco Eco, to just say a few words about working with our contractors, which include Sumco Eco, Interfluve, Horsley Wetton, who very patiently did the permitting, and Casey actually presented the notice of intent to the Conservation Commission, and I've been on the Conservation Commission 20 years, and it was the very best presentation I've ever heard. So I was very impressed. People enjoyed it. So Travis, could you just say a few words about being a contractor for our projects, working in the town of Falmouth?
Good morning, everyone. actually afternoon. I think Beth said that this is the third cranberry bog restoration that's happened in Massachusetts. Sumco Eco Contracting has been fortunate enough to work on the first three leading into this one. So starting several years ago back at Eel River, then moving to Tidmarsh with Gloriana, and then to Coonamessett. So grateful to be part of that, kind of progression. At 10:59, Betsy came to me as I stepped through the door and said, "I have a project for you." And I'm thinking, okay, Betsy, we just started this one. Thinking that maybe she had something like, okay, this one's off the ground, it's off and running, let's talk about the next one. She happened to say, listen, Nick's stuck, and I need you to speak today. So here I am. I didn't get a chance to plan any of this talking, but grateful to be here. Thankful for all the partners that have been part of these projects. As Jim was saying, these projects take a long time. They take a long time to get off the ground, having met in 2006, I think you said, Jim. Our part is similar to man's time on Earth. We get to be this tiny little sliver where Earth has been around for eons, and our part is, being here for a couple months and doing projects. So while you all work on it for years and years and years, I feel like we just get to do groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. Happy to be part of that, and thankful to be part of these projects. This is going on hundreds of acres now, not tens of acres. So that we've been thankful to be part of, and looking at the next ones to come following these. So thank you, everybody.
So I just want to wrap up by mentioning our non-governmental organizations who have been critical with this. I've mentioned them before, and I'm going to wrap up with them. One is Coonamessett River Trust, who I think I do remember that meeting we had, and it was Chris Neal who dragged me along said, come on, you got to come out and see the river. There's funding coming up. And you're a scientist, you know how to write grants. And Coonamessett River Trust and the other organization that's played it in an absolute critical role is the 300 Committee Land Trust, who's added land. Most of you know that most of the land along the river is protected conservation land, either by the town or by the 300 Committee. And the third group I want to mention, you probably wonder what this tree is. Somebody asked what it was. It's an Atlantic white cedar. One of our goals is to restore patches of Atlantic white cedar. And the Living Observatory, Gloriana, who was key to the Tidmarsh project, grows these and helps us develop. But for those of you who don't know Living Observatory, you can look up livingobservatory.org, and part of Gloriana's vision for this is to learn as much as we can about the restoration work that's being done so that we can better plan for future restorations. And there are some of you who might want to go out in 20-degree weather and look at the site. Those of you who live here in town, I'm happy to arrange a time to go out, but we have limited space. I can see you're eager to go out to the site, but hold off until the summer.
As opposed to going to Washington?
Well, that's true. So again, thank you to all of you. If you've looked at this sign, this actually isn't the sign that we have in the lower river. There are many of the same people, but there are a lot of people that are on that weren't. There are a lot of people on this they're on here because Mark Kaspersick, if you think I'm good at twisting people's arms, Mark Kaspersick gets all these people in town, and including AmeriCorps and the Upper Cape Tech, and out to do many, many projects. And actually, he also twists the arms of the Coonamessett River Trust and the 300 Committee to come out to volunteer. So that's why this project works. And I really appreciate all of you coming. My job is just to answer questions. And believe me, just like the other times, that first time when you came, when it was raining, and people call up, are you really gonna have it? I'm like, of course we're gonna have it. All 5 for the lower river, it threatened rain. This time, it really was cold. I'm really glad we had this inside. And I really appreciate all of you coming. Thanks.